Welcome back. Episode 52 of your favorite podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, Cutoffs and Coffee. We are your hosts, James and CT from T3 Performance, as always. And we have an absolute banger of a podcast today. We have a superstar, a legend, Andrew Carber, on the podcast today. Andrew was a former Clemson golfer turned professional baseball player, turned almost professional basketball player, turned actor stunt double. We talked to this dude about how the heck he managed all of this. We talked to him about his journey, and we also take a deep dive in skill acquisition. And for an individual who is so skilled at so many different things, we pick his brain on what he thinks athletes should be doing now to help develop their base of their skill set to be able to be given opportunities such as playing different sports at a high level. We know you're going to love this conversation we had with Andrew.
And this episode is brought to you by Underdog Fitness products. So Underdog Fitness has foam rollers, resistance bands, glute bands to warm up with. We have some spiky balls to really get in there to those tough muscle knots that we're trying to get out. And right now on the website, we're running a couple specials. So you better go check those out at underdogfitness.com. That's underdog with 2 G's, fitness.com. Check out the fall specials that we have going on. And just to put it on your radar, we are going to be bringing back the lightweight hoodie this fall. So keep an eye out for those.
Ooh, that always sells out quick. So make sure you get yours while it's there. If you enjoy the podcast, if you like listening to the Cutoffs and Coffee and you'd like to support us, please follow us on all of the places that you listen to your podcast. Subscribe to us on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. Feel free to reach out to us on our own personal social medias and let us know some high performers you would like to hear us talk to on the podcast, and we will try our best to get them on. So speaking of high performers, here is one. Enjoy the conversation with Andrew Carber on episode 52 of Cutoffs and Coffee. Carb Daddy, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to Cutoffs and Coffee. How are you today, bro?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us real quick, Carb Daddy is the Instagram handle. Where did that come from? Just before we get into anything else.
Yes, Daddy Carbs. So I was like an early adopter of social media kind of early on. I started with the Facebook, and then I heard Facebook and Instagram were kind of intertwining. So when I first got into Instagram, it was kind of a joke. I just kind of like did it as a joke. And, you know, I'm posting like the food pics, like pictures of muffins and cupcakes, you know, like just kind of making, I mean, I was posting stupid pictures of my friends and like on field trips in high school. And then fast forward, like, I mean, what better name than Daddy Carbs on Instagram as like kind of just a joking handle, and was keeping it light on there. And then Instagram, I never saw turning into what it is today. It almost feels like your highlight reel in like LinkedIn page. And when I got drafted with the Red Sox, no one told me that they were going to verify our accounts. And when you verify your account, you can't change your Instagram name. So you can't change your title. And so I was stuck with Daddy Carbs. It was like, yeah, now I got to ride with it. Now I got to own it. So,
oh, dude, that's great.
But I love it. I think it's funny. And like I said, I try and keep it light on Instagram anyway. So now it's a brand.
Now it's a brand. Yeah, dude, that's perfect. For a little context for our listeners, how we got introduced doing a film together a couple months ago called Fantasy Football, which is a Paramount Plus picture that'll come out November, December sometime. Anyway, we were introduced by a very good friend of mine who is an excellent judge of character, right? Just one of those guys who, you know, if he introduces you to somebody, you know, he's doing it intentionally and he's doing it for a reason. And that's how Andrew and I met. And we sat down one day at lunch and he started telling me the story. And the first thing I thought about was, I got to reach out to James and see if we can figure out how to get this guy on the podcast. And at the time we were traveling and the work schedule was busy and we weren't podcasting a ton, but I told him as soon as we bring this thing back and are able to get rolling that we're going to get you on. So I'm glad that we are finally here. We finally got you. It took, you know, a couple episodes. We're now at episode 52, but you know, I'm glad we're doing it now than 100 episodes down the line. And it may even be good enough where people want a part 2, 100 episodes down the line.
Yeah.
You know? So let's knock out our kind of get to know you questions, man. We had talked about your Instagram. Now it seems if you Google Andrew Carber, that some stuff comes up, right? And I think it was, even when we were talking before the Netflix Hustle show came out, there wasn't as much info. Now there's a ton of info. But what's something that we need to know about you that we can't find from a Google search?
It's a great question. That's a difficult one. I mean, you can't really find this on Google. One of the coolest experiences I've had to date was I got to carry the bag and caddy for Gary Player, who is an ambassador for the game of golf, obviously. And you guys, as you guys will learn, I love the game of golf. I'll talk about it more during the show. But Gary was 84 years old, or years young, I should say, when I caddied for him a couple of years ago. It was during COVID. It was real hush hush. And yeah, like basically the place I was working at kind of during COVID, just to pay the bills and stuff like that, I was caddying, and the caddy master and general manager reached out and said, "Hey, we have something really private. Do you have some time?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Hey, we have Gary Player coming to the grounds. Can't tell anybody, but we really love who you are and you represent the club well. And we would love to have you carry the bag for Gary." And so I carried for him and his grandson, actually 2 separate times. They came back and they requested me again, and just learned like an insane amount from his wisdom and just his outlook on life. And he's big on health, nutrition, wellness. And it was the first time where being the caddy in the group was more advantageous in getting to know Gary and growing a connection with him than it was to be a player in the group. I mean, we had the president of the club in the group, and he was talking to me for, 18 straight holes, just giving me advice. So, yeah, so I would say that's probably one of the coolest things that, I play golf, but you wouldn't know that. I know Gary pretty well. So.
And I can confirm that can't be found on Google, because I searched and I didn't find that. James.
I was about to say, yeah.
That's like so I've only maybe had a caddy one time playing golf, and like we made the caddy play for us a couple of holes because he was like an absolute dog at golf. He was a college golfer, and like we're all terrible. This is funny because it's just like the opposite. Well, not that you're very good at golf too, but playing with somebody or caddying for somebody like Gary, you're just like taking notes the whole time. It's like getting the cheat codes for golf, man. That's incredible. What was like the one thing that you learned from him that you'll never forget?
So obviously what will always stand out is definitely, obviously, he's an insane golfer. He's 84 years old. He shot 72. He shot even par that day. He still hits the ball 260 yards. It's ridiculous. The man practices what he preaches. But the biggest thing I took away, and I told this Gary walking up the 18th fairway, and it left a big print on him. I said, walking up 18, I said, "Gary, like, we've played 18 holes today, but it only took 1 hole for you to leave an impact on my life." And he said, "Well, what was that?" And I said, on the first tee box, we had the whole club gathered around, and you said to all of us that laughter is the best medicine. And he said, and it's free. And there's not much that's free in this life anymore. He said, every day you've got to laugh. And I said, that'll stick with me forever. And you can kind of see the chills go down his spine when it hit him. And he exchanged some super kind words to me after that. But yeah, like that was the biggest thing I took away from him. Like he's just his character is as high level as you could imagine, and was a role model to me. And that was the best advice I could ever take away. So,
man, I got chills from that too. Not just Gary wasn't the only one. Andrew, your skill set is so broad, so wide. And again, we'll dive into that. But can you remember, or can you tell us about the last skill that you taught yourself, or a skill that you're currently working on?
Yes. So away from sports, honestly, like what I'm most prideful in the last 2 years that I've just been diving into heavily, and still in the learning process, but have honestly like really gotten to a high level with it. It's just like investing, whether it's stock investing. I'm starting to read about like real estate investing and stuff like that. One of the big pillars of like my life that I want to pursue outside of sports and acting and whatever it is is I want to improve the education system, because I really do feel like that's the pillar of and the core of what our issues are today in society. So I really want to, I think investing is the key to financial freedom. And I think if people understood how to invest properly and just invest in general. I mean, I know people that have no clue what a brokerage account is or the S&P 500 is or anything like that. And that's just the very surface level side of it. And for me, it's changed my life. It's given me the opportunity to keep pursuing opportunities like fantasy football with Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus, and it gave me the opportunity to chase the hustle dream and play baseball, minor league baseball. When you learn that money can work for you and you don't have to put as many hours in at your job just to support yourself and pay the bills, then that's kind of when life gets a lot more fun. And money can be the root of all evil, or it can kind of solve a lot of issues as well and make life a lot easier. And I think investing is one of those things that you'll probably never master it. It's like golf. You'll never shoot 18 under on a round of golf. You'll never win 100% of your trades or investing, but if you're in it for the long haul, you will. So that's my biggest thing.
During your time, kind of like with your self-education, would you call it like a self-education of the investment? Did you ever run across Ray Dalio's work?
Yes, I have. Ray Dalio, he's from what I've learned about Ray, he's like the macro king. He understands the macroeconomics. And something I love about Ray is he's not like, if you're going to be an investor, you can't be politically motivated one side or the other. You just have to see things for the way things are, whether you like it or not, and where the world is trending. And Ray is incredible at identifying the rise and falls of empires and countries. And unfortunately, he's forecasting some scary things for the U.S., kind of with the direction we're headed right now as a country. But we're a resilient country, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so he's fascinating. Ray is one of the greatest investors of all time. So,
and that was going to be my follow-up. If you saw his most recent, he just put a new book out, and then he also like takes his books and makes them in a super digestible YouTube platform. So he just, in the last couple of months put that out, and I think that's what you're referring to. And it kind of explains like the rising and falling of empires over the course of millennia. And it's weird because like that, like listening to that is actually like kind of more so relieving some anxiety, because it's like, hey, this is just what's happening. If we can watch it, and I was like, wow, that's like, help me out at least kind of see it from a different perspective. So that's cool that you're listening to Ray Dalio. And would you say there's any other pivotal people that you learned from in the last couple of years outside of Ray?
Yeah, so the way I got into it when COVID hit, I was super fortunate. Actually, I was still, like I said, I was caddying. Like the world was ending, and I was hearing on the golf course as I was training for baseball in the mornings. I was still pitching, and I was going to go back and play minor league baseball. And then I would work in the afternoons, and I was just grinding, and the market was just crashing every single day. And like the first week, I was like, oh wow, like market's down 800 points like today. That's a pretty big drop. But then the next week it was like, oh, the market's down like another 800 to 1,000 points, and I'm like, that's like a lot of drop in 1 week. And then, I mean, it was like a relentless. It was the fastest decline in history for the markets, like peak to trough. And obviously, COVID was a very weird time, and no one exactly knew what was happening. The media was feeding into it, but I was just my colleagues, as weird as this sounds, one of our caddies had like a great teacher at Westchester University who was a hedge fund manager and just wanted to give back. He's 72. And he was teaching his students how to invest, how to trade stocks, what's a good investment, what's a bad investment, how to read charts, technical stuff like that. And this kid, I asked him, I was like, we had prior conversations about investing, and he was like, man, like you got to get in the market right now. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad the fall before, and that book probably changed my life the most. Just reading about money working for you and whatever. And I was like, you know what? You got to take a risk in order to get a reward. And so I did. So I started investing through him, he was a great resource. His teacher was an extension of my friend who was also a caddy. And we did like phenomenally. I mean, everyone did really well during COVID. If you were just invested during COVID, you did awesome. But that was the first taste of like, okay, like I'm just a caddy, and I just changed my life from using other people's money in the market and an asset to grow my money for me. And that's when I learned like small guys can win too if the big guys win up top. Like if Jeff Bezos does great and Amazon stock does great, that means I do great because I own some Amazon stock, or Apple. If you own an ETF, you could own all those companies, and the small guys benefit from the big guys winning. So it changed. It also helped me politically understand like where my values lie and why I support certain aspects of parties and others. And yeah, like logic and reasoning, stuff like that. But the one thing I will say, like, if you want to get into investing and you're self-taught and stuff like that, there, as crazy as this sounds, Twitter is an unbelievable resource. So there are some of the brightest minds on social media on Twitter. And I can relay some of those tags. It can be a dangerous place because there's some really uneducated people on Twitter and some are frauds. But if you can find some of the brightest minds in investing and trading online. And I took a course from this guy who literally, like, I was kind of following, he had like a small following, like 4,000 people on Twitter, and which in investing standards and Twitter standards is relatively small. And he put out this course like, yo, I'm going to cut the fat. This is what works. This is how I trade. This is a highly successful setup and trading format. And I took his course, and it literally like taught me everything I needed to know. You could literally learn it in a couple hours, and then you got to take it to the field and obviously work on your craft there. But as far as the fundamentals go, yeah, like the resources out there, you can learn a lot on YouTube. There's so much on YouTube that you can, I call it YouTube University, because you can learn anything. I mean, unless you're going to be a surgeon, like some sort of doctor or lawyer, like you can literally learn any trade online now. And I think more people need to tap into that if you haven't already. So
welcome to episode 1 of the Cutoffs and Coffee Business Podcast here. Andrew Carber. How much time you got after we record? Because we may have to.
We're going to follow up. We're going to follow up with some questions.
So let's. That's awesome. We've been investing. James has helped me a little bit. My dad's helped me, so it's good to be on the same on that same page. You know, the other thing too, in strength and conditioning in this field, relating it to what we do, is like, you need something like that, right? It's like we love being in the gym and grinding and working 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and working with clients and helping them become better. But there are things that we need to do as coaches to help invest in ourselves. So eventually we don't have to spend 40 hours on the training floor, training and grinding, you know, when we're 35, 40, 45 and you know, have families to take care of and all these things. So it definitely is a good thing for younger coaches to get into and start looking into it. And you heard it. I mean, you heard it right here. Andrew Carber is saying it's something that's changed his life. A couple of books, a couple of podcasts, a couple of courses has changed his life. So definitely take that for what it's worth and look into that a little bit. So let's like buckle up a little bit here, because it's story time, right? I'm ready for you to tell the people how you got from young, passionate athlete to the position you're at now, where I would say, you know, did this, and this, but I don't want to give any spoilers. So we're going to sit back. We're going to buckle up. Let us know the Andrew Carber story and talk us to how you got from where you were when you started to exactly where you are now.
Yeah. I'll try and keep it as like efficient as possible, because it's a wild story and you really do have to latch in here for the turns that the story kind of takes. But yeah, we'll start with, so I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I grew up in the northern suburbs, like a town called Ambler, just north of Philadelphia. And basically went to Upper Dublin High School, and just thought I lived like in a like fairly affluent community where it was like textbook. You go to high school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get good grades, you get a good internship, and then hopefully you land a great 9-to-5 job out of school. And that was kind of like the environment I grew up in. And in high school, it was like, if you had any thoughts, if you even thought that you could go to the NBA or the MLB or the NFL, be an actor in a movie, whatever it is, like they would laugh in your face, to be honest with you. It was like, oh, this kid over here thinks he's going to the NBA. Like, it was a joke. And honestly, like, growing up around kids, like, that have that mentality, like, it starts to leak into your brain and you start to believe it. Like, I didn't think it was possible to achieve anything that has fallen into my life like at the moment. So far down the journey, or far down the path. But so basically, high school, was a 3-sport athlete, played golf, played baseball, played basketball. And yeah, it's basically, I got into Clemson University and really wanted to play golf. That was like my passion at the time. I had different spurts throughout high school where basketball was my passion, then baseball was my passion. And then towards the end of high school, I loved golf. I just was playing my best golf of my life. It was just really progress. I think you guys can relate. Progress is like addicting. So I was just addicted to the process and the progress that I was making. And I was like, yo, let's go chase this golf thing. So went to Clemson, was going to try and walk on in Clemson. I thought you had to go south to play golf. That was like kind of the other stigma that was drilled into my brain. Oh, you want to play on the PGA Tour, you got to go south. Like northern guys can't make it on tour. So went to Clemson. Unfortunately, they didn't take walk-ons. So I played club golf and was about as far away from playing any other sport as you could possibly imagine. I wound up joining a fraternity, whatever. And then my sophomore year of Clemson, basically, I just realized like something didn't feel right. Like I felt disconnected. I was drinking like 3 or 4 nights a week. I was going out and partying, like living the life that all the kids I went to high school with were, and which is totally fine, but it just didn't feel right. It was like, yo, I have no like passion, or I don't feel any like emotion towards what I'm like, the direction I'm heading right now. Like where am I going to be in 3 or 4 years? And actually, it's like the moment it hit me sophomore year, where I kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna step out of what I'm doing here. Was I went to the Clemson job fair and I started looking at internships for the summer, and it kind of hit me. It was like, damn, I'm gonna spend 8 or 9 hours a day in an office space, and I'm not gonna be practicing golf and playing tournament golf at a high level like I want to be. And I had been offered by Temple after my freshman year to come back and actually transfer to play Division I golf at Temple, and would have been a great fit, but I was already like knee deep in Clemson with relationships with some of the best friends in my life, and loved the school and great football, whatever. So I didn't leave. And sophomore year, basically, like at the job fair, I was like, this is not the direction I was meant to be on. Like I'm 6'9", I'm dunking on kids at the rec center. And actually, like, one of the big ingredients as well was I was playing basketball with Mike Williams, who was the Clemson receiver at the time, and he now plays with the San Diego Chargers. Mike's an awesome guy, and Mike's first love was basketball. And but I was like, dude, why don't you play basketball here? Like, he's like, nah. He's like, I love basketball, but football is going to get me paid. He's like, he loves football too, but he's like, football is going to get me paid. And he told me, he was like, why are you playing golf? Like, why don't you play basketball? And it was the first time I was like, maybe I should go do something like a little more athletic. And so the combination of factors, I stepped out of Clemson. I went, I kind of just was, I told my friends right before spring break, I was like, yo, I think I'm going to transfer. I'm going to like kind of take a year off here and figure out where I'm going. And I think my friends probably thought I was crazy. But yeah, stepped out. Basically, that's where everything kind of started. I started playing baseball. I was like, all right, what athletic thing could I do right now with my height? And it was either basketball or baseball at that time. It was like, what's more rare, a 6'9" basketball player or a 6'9" pitcher? And so I went the pitching route. I was like, why not be the next Randy Johnson from the right right side, and I started training like crazy for baseball, and wound up going to a showcase. Got picked up. Basically, after this one showcase, we had about 4 top round draft picks. This one kid, Jay Groom, who actually played with the Red Sox with me, he was supposed to be like the first overall pick in that year's draft, and I threw right behind him, and everyone knew who Jay Groom was. No one knew who Andrew Carber was, and basically, like, Baseball America was there. They had 50 different representatives from major league organizations. They had front officemen, GMs, scouting directors, all there to see Jay Groom and the other kids. And then they see this like gangly 6'9" kid walk in, who used to be a year prior a frat star and drinking 3 nights a week or 4 nights a week, and nobody. And they're like, who's this 6'9" guy throwing 91 miles per hour in a January bullpen? And that's when pretty much everything changed. Like, the next thing I knew, literally the next Monday, I had like 25 letters from different MLB organizations, just asking. I had a Baseball America article that blew me up as well. And yeah, like, it just became like part of the story, and wound up going to a junior college, played in Florida for a year. It's called Chipola College. Won a national championship there down in Chipola College, which was awesome. 11 of my teammates got drafted with me that year.
Wow.
So went to the Red Sox that year, and then, yeah, like, from there, kept playing minor league baseball, had some ups and downs, like a wild journey. I had some injuries, unfortunately, just because I was making so many changes to my mechanics that kind of unfortunately derailed me. But yeah, and then once COVID hit, I was like, you know what, I got to switch something up. I've been doing this minor league baseball for 4 or 5 years now. Unfortunately, everything had clicked. I was ready to go. And right when I was like, this is my year, 2020, I'm going to like make waves. They canceled the MLB season. They canceled the minor league season. And I was like, we got to make a change. So yeah, basically step out and chase the basketball dream. That was the first thing. Most kids, I guess, would be like, hey, let's go get a 9-to-5 job. And my head was, let's go play basketball professionally. Let's see if that's a possibility. So I was playing, I played pickup games early in the morning with the G League guys. They had one of the mornings that picked me up. I was training at the Sixers G League facility, and one of the mornings they picked me up for their pickup game because I was the 6'9" guy. They didn't have enough guys, so they're not going to take the 5'10" pitcher, the PO. They're going to take the 6'9" guy who might be able to do something, I guess. And yeah, had a good pickup game. The guy who runs the runs was like, yo, man, I don't know what your deal is, what your story is with baseball. But he said, if you want to keep playing basketball, like, we're in here 7 to 9 a.m. every morning. He's like, it's all the overseas and G League guys and some of the NBA free agents that are trying to get signed. So yeah, next thing I know, I'm in there training 2-3 months with them. Was going to go play overseas basketball. I had a couple opportunities to play in Germany and Sweden and eventually Japan. And right before I was going to go to Germany and check out the place, I got chased down a hallway by a Sixers front office guy. And this Sixers front office guy is like, yo, man, you mind if I ask you a question? And he introduced himself. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to get to work out with the Sixers G League guy. And first line out of his mouth, he goes, yo, you want to be in a movie with Adam Sandler, like Netflix, produced by LeBron James? It's got Queen Latifah in it. And I was like, not the question I thought you were going to ask me, but I was like, I'd love to hear more about it. I thought I would just be like an extra. I was like, I didn't cast for this or anything. And then he kept talking about the opportunity. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, we have like 100 guys who have applied for this opportunity or across the country. But he's like, in reality, we only have about like 9 guys that really qualify for what we're looking for. And he's like, I'm not going to lie. I think you walked in at the perfect time. So I was like, yeah, you know, guy writes crazy stories. And he said, yes, he does. He's like, let me take your picture and send it up the chain. Takes my picture, sends it up the chain. And next thing I know, 2 days, like I guess the next day, it was like the afternoon, I got a text from the Netflix coordinator, just like, yo, like, we really like you, like, send us some videos, you playing basketball. And next thing I knew, I got the job within the week, and next thing I knew, I was flying first class to Spain, and I got to meet Adam Sandler and for the first time over there in Mallorca. And then I spent 3 months with him and Juancho, and got to meet their families, which was awesome. And just really met a new family on a movie set for 3 months. And then, yeah, kind of did that from there. And then I obviously wound up on the set of another movie with CT here. And now here we are about a year removed from it all, and kind of still writing the story. So
that was Hustle, by the way, right?
Hustle,
I know I mentioned it a little bit, but if you haven't seen it, and talk a little bit about your actual role in the film, because like you said, you weren't just an extra.
Yeah.
So you weren't just a guy sitting on the sideline. You actually had an opportunity to show off your skill set a bit.
Yeah. So I knew nothing about movies before this, so I had no idea what a stunt double was. I had no idea what they did. I had no idea what a regular double did either. And then also I wound up being like my own character as like an injured Greek player early in the film. So that was my first acting experience.
Which you crushed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a lot of people were worried about my ankle.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people asking about my ankle. No, but yeah, so basically I did anything where Juancho could get injured or Juancho could be there for. You can see the pictures on my Instagram page and see how similar we really did look like twins. Had no idea I had a twin brother across the pond. But yeah, like I did a bunch of different work, and I never really break it down as to like what scenes I'm in and stuff like that, just for the respect of the movie and respect for Juancho too, because he put in endless amounts of hours of work. But yeah, a lot of basketball stuff, shooting, whether it's shooting, dribbling, running, dunking. Like there's a lot of things where you wouldn't think you could get injured, but if you're on a movie set, you know how many takes you get, and when you're constantly doing the same thing take after take, it takes a toll on your body. So yeah.
So Andrew explained it in the most modest way possible, which I'm sure we appreciate. But what happened was the lead actor of the film is 6'9", 200 plus pounds, a professional basketball player. They find you who looks very similar to this player. They shave your head, they tat you up.
Yes.
And then they ask the lead actor to do the speaking, right? And when they have the close-up shots, that's when they use them. But when they actually need the individual to do something athletic, to do a dunk or to do different, dribbling or agility drills and skills and things like that, that's when they bring in the stunt double. And that's where Andrew comes in. So basically, the lead does all the tough acting stuff. Andrew does all the tough skill stuff, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on that individual, because you are not only representing the superstar, right, like the big star on the film, but you're also basically make or break the film depending on how good your skill set is.
Yes.
Right. So to kind of catch everybody up. So obviously it's not the main guy who's doing it. It's Andrew who's doing it. So he had to look exactly like the lead. He had to move exactly like the lead, and he had to do the skill of playing basketball just like the lead would. The tough part in this situation, I would imagine, is this guy is a high level NBA professional basketball player.
Yes.
And Andrew is a golfer. Turned baseball player. Turned, almost a professional basketball player. So that's what's so cool about it is, you were in that situation where, first of all, you're getting into it and you have no idea what's going on. But then you get to a place where they say, okay, let's bring this guy out. Let's bring in my freshly fake tattooed up, stunt double. And I need you to do these super technical skills to make sure that it gets in the film and this film doesn't stink.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of how that happens. What type of pressure did you feel? What type of stress was there involved around basically like being the center of this film and making sure that you had to deliver something to represent you as an individual, as the actors, to represent Adam Sandler, to represent the production company? I mean, how did you handle kind of all of that instant pressure?
Yeah, it was all like so new to me. So I really had no idea, like I said, what I was getting into. And I thought I was just going to be on set a couple of days that they needed me. And I wound up being on set for the majority of, like I said, 3 months in Philadelphia and Spain. I was there for 2.5 weeks. So like, I just wanted to be as respectful as I possibly could to everybody. And as, I mean, if you ever want to be humbled, just go on the set of a Netflix original with Adam Sandler, because you're literally walking in every day to a new, extremely successful, I mean, motivational person and talented person on set, whether it was, like I said, Queen Latifah, Adam himself is unbelievably successful and influential. Juancho, incredible NBA player, unbelievable actor as well. Once you see the film, you'll know. And that was the first time he's ever done a movie. But like I said, you got Jaleel White, who's Steve Urkel. You've got Anthony Edwards, who's a young, bright star in the NBA upcoming. One of the mornings I'm having coffee with Jay Wright as I'm getting my tattoos put on. He's sitting right next to me. He's getting his hair and makeup done. Trey Young. I mean, I could go down the list, like Boban. One of the mornings I walk into a trailer and it's Juancho. I sit next to Juancho, obviously, every day so we can get synced up. But then it was Trey Young. Then it was Boban, or sorry, it was Jordan Clarkson, Aaron Gordon. And at the end was Boban. And like, I walk into the trailer and I'm like, oh man, like I'm just this minor league baseball player, this nobody in my eyes. And these are all high level NBA players. And from the end of the trailer, Boban yells out, "Hey, hermano." And it's just like, they're the most humble guys I could ever like be around. So that made things a lot easier. It helped me warm up to everyone. Adam was amazing. First time I met Adam was on set. One of the first days, me and Juancho looked officially the same. I walk into the circle. It's me, Willie Hernan Gomez, Jose Calderon. We're all getting ready and warmed up for the scene. And Adam jumps right into the circle out of nowhere. And he goes, "Ha ha," and just points at me and Juancho and started making fun of how similar we looked, how we looked identical. He said, "That's hilarious." And just, it literally, like, I went from like nervous to I warmed up to everybody on set. And I will say the pressures of doing the stunts, there's definitely a little bit of pressure that you feel. At least for me, like I don't get too built up being an athlete. I'm kind of used to that, but there were a couple scenes, like one of the alternate scenes was like a dunk through the legs over somebody. And I had to do that in Spain in Timberlands. So that was like the most nervous I got on set, because I couldn't at that time do a through the legs dunk. I could only do like a 360 windmill. And then literally for 2 weeks straight, just practiced nonstop, just jumping over somebody, putting the ball through my legs and then dunking it through the hoop. And the first time I got it was like, the whole place went crazy. The Spanish kids went crazy. And yeah, like, so that was the most nervous I got. I was like, if I don't get this down, I might get, the thoughts that go through your head are crazy. I was like, I might get fired if I don't do this, like, which probably wouldn't have happened. But yeah, like, there's definitely some pressure to it. So
how many of those guys that you were on set with do you think could throw a 91-mile-an-hour fastball? I think that's what's so fascinating and why I'm so excited to have this conversation is, like, I've been around CT a long time, and I know he's frustratingly good at almost everything he does. The dude could pick up a guitar, start singing at a bonfire, and then go out to the back porch, and then do a backflip off of the porch, right? And then he could go and catch footballs, and then he could go and dunk, and it's just like, this dude can just acquiesce skills like it's his job. And it seems like, obviously, that's what you can do, right? Whether it's throwing a baseball, whether it's hitting a driver, or whether it's dunking a basketball in Timberlands through your legs. Like, why do you think you have an easier time, or what is that mentality for you that you're able to pick these skills up quickly and then jump from skill to skill? And it's not all the same. Like you mentioned, football and basketball have similar ways that we can move. Golf's different. It's definitely a different mindset. How could you describe your skill acquisition process?
Yeah, I would say if you want to be like an athlete, like to me, a true athlete is not just like how fast you can run or like how high you can jump and stuff like that. Like I think one of the best at like some of the best athletes in the world, like you see in the Olympics all the time, they do different, whether it's uh, like I said, running, jumping, swimming, whatever. Like if you want to be a great athlete, I truly believe from a young age, you need to do everything. And we live in a society where everyone's so focused on like, if you want to be amazing and great, like you have to focus on one sport from an early age, just like develop that one sport, don't think about anything. And I think that's so not true. Like if I put a golf club in LeBron James's hands, I've seen it before. I've seen it on Instagram. Like he stinks. He has a terrible golf swing. Like Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley has a terrible golf swing. It's gotten better. He's practicing, but like these guys have trained for one skill their whole entire life, and it comes at uh, like like I said, like there's a sacrifice you're making. You lose the intangibles of other abilities and talents and skill sets. So like indirectly, when I was playing baseball, I had no idea this was even happening, but I started training like really heavily for baseball. I got an awesome trainer in Philadelphia. His name's Rob Urbina. He's a rotational athlete trainer, and he told me he was going to increase my fastball by 2 to 5 miles per hour at the least, just from the weight room perspective and what we were doing. And then I'm playing golf that summer, and I'm hitting the golf ball 20, 25, 30 yards further. And all my clubs are just going like exponentially further. And it just showed me like, okay, the baseball movements are helping me in the golf swing. When I'm playing basketball, I was jumping higher. I was doing way cooler dunks. All of a sudden, I could do a windmill so easily. I could do a 360 way more easily. And so all these skill sets contributed to each sport in ways that I didn't really even know at the time when I was doing the training for them. So yeah, like if you want to be a great athlete, I really am a firm believer that from a young age, you need to play everything. And if you're going to focus on one sport, let that be high school or college, your freshman year of college, then make your transition into one sport. But like I said, like every sport made me a more dynamic athlete in whichever sport I was playing, because I played everything from a young age. So way more coordinated, like I said.
And I think what you mentioned about like, a sign of a good training program is we accidentally get better at other things outside of the intentional training that we're doing.
Yep.
We accidentally learn how to dunk by training to be a better football player. Those
Yes.
are the things that I love. I love to help athletes with, or at least like it helps athletes click that like what we're doing has a lot of benefits outside of just being a better tight end.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, is like, when you went in to start like intentionally training to become a better pitcher, like where did you start with your velocities, and then like what was the high end, like your top velo that you were able to kind of get up to?
Yeah. So for you guys as trainers, I want to make sure I relay this to you guys and for your listeners as well. Like when I first got into baseball and all these different sports, and I started training on my own, and I thought I could do everything on my own. I thought that if I just like lifted weights and ran a couple miles each day, that I would become a great athlete and a great pitcher, whatever it was, or a great basketball player. And to be honest with you, I got worse at baseball, specifically as a pitcher. Like I put on a lot of weight. I went from like 215 to almost 235, 240, but I was strong in all of the wrong places. And I had no idea why I was strong as an ox, but I was still throwing my fastball the same speed. And I just felt slower and heavier. And it just didn't feel right going down the mound. And honestly, like I had some elbow inflammation that I think was at the end of my first year getting back into baseball that I think was directly correlated to doing too many curls in the weight room. Yeah, it looked good. Like I looked great in the mirror, as opposed to just being the fat, sloppy kid at Clemson, drinking every night or whatever. But as far as like if you performing at a high level, that's what matters most. It doesn't matter how you look; it's how you perform. And the exercises I was doing on my own that were, like I said, benching and doing curls and whatever, like they were not translating to the field as a faster fastball. So you need to train for a purpose and have a reason behind your training. So when I went to this Rob Urbina guy in Philadelphia, I didn't feel like a football player anymore. I didn't feel like I could go run routes. I felt like skinnier, but when I got on the mound, I felt so much quicker and lighter and like more athletic. And my fastball went from 89 to 91, 92, all the way to I was sitting 93 to 95, topping out at 97 on the mound. And that's so different. 89 and 92 is way different than sitting 94, 95, topping at 97, like I said. So, and that was all because I was doing rotational training. And let me just make sure. There we go. I almost lost it there for a second. But yeah, like training specific, a lot more legs. I mean, leg training. Yeah, you throw it with a baseball, you throw it with your arm 100%. And you would think like the common way of thinking or whatever would be, oh, I got to get my arm strong, or I got to get like my upper body strong. But it's the farthest thing from the truth. Like I get to the Red Sox and I see David Price and Chris Sale across the weight room, and they have the smallest upper bodies I'd ever seen in my life. Their arms, I'm not kidding, and no offense to Chris and David Price, but their arms look like noodles to me. Like I was so accustomed to seeing football players that I train with in the weight room in the off season, and then I get to spring training, and some of the best throwing athletes and rotational athletes in the world have the smallest arms. I go to the BMW championship, same thing. They have a slender upper body, but they're strong in the right places. And that was, it came from a lot of band work. And like I said, their lower bodies, on the other hand, are strong as could be. And your power as an athlete comes from the ground up, and you got to be, whatever sport it is, you have to be strong in your lower half. And the second I really took that to heart, like I saw a transition to the field, and I couldn't place more of an emphasis on training with a purpose and training with people that know what they're doing, know what they're talking about, and can provide a plan for you to actually transition your movements to the field. So,
I will say, though, there is something to be said about you going out on your own and deciding I'm going to pursue this and I'm curious about how to get better at this. And then you just go out and dedicate yourself to something, right? Then having enough success to where you realize, okay, I could use some guidance. But a lot of times everybody's looking for the perfect thing and don't want to take any, not literal steps backwards, but you know what I mean? Maybe like something where they feel like they're not getting as much out of it, but you did that and you learned and you explored and you were curious. So then when you got in the right place, you were able to recognize how good he was and how beneficial it was, as opposed to going into it raw with no training age and saying, okay, turn me into this person, help me throw 91, but you have no idea how to move because you never were out on your own doing it.
Yep.
So even though it may have felt like wasted time, that is what accelerated your progress when you actually got in a structure and you got with somebody who knew what they were doing. Because a lot of times we get athletes who don't explore enough.
Yep.
You know, what we used to do growing up is we would buy the Muscle and Fitness magazine, and it would be 8 weeks to bigger pecs, right? And then you do that training session. And then it was, you know, six days to bigger arms. And then you would do that. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't great, but we were learning so many other things that eventually help us in the future once we get into the right situation. But without that, we would have then gone through all of the crummy times with somebody leading us, and we may have worked ourselves out because we wouldn't have had both of those experiences.
Yep. 100%. I agree completely.
right? And I think that's important for people to understand too. And it's like this is a guy who's played professional baseball, professional basketball, right, and a very high level golfer. And this guy was okay with failing for a little bit, going out on his own and running and failing. So when the time presented itself, you were able to accelerate.
And I love that you just said that, because you just hit on a point that if I would have left this interview, I would have regretted so much not touching on. Like, yes, what I just said, may I have wasted a little bit of time in the weight room in terms of a performance perspective had I just gone straight to someone who knew? Yeah, sure, like I would have. But if I would have gone straight to a baseball trainer and looked in the mirror and saw, man, I look so skinny, like, I don't know, man, like, yeah, I'm throwing a little harder, but I feel like if I got like jacked, I would be throwing the baseball even more hard. Like, had I not done that already and realized, like, hey, that jacked mentality for a baseball throwing rotational athlete, even the golf club, like, yeah, you're going to be really strong, but like, you're not going to perform at that high level. So that, like, going through that process and like experiencing, like, yo, that just doesn't work. Like, it might, in your brain, there's so many things in life that, like, common sense seems like would be the right answer, but couldn't be further from the truth. And that's like in all ways of life. But in sports specifically, like, the common sense thing, I had to get it out of my system. It was like, and thankfully, indirectly, I did it first. I just got it out of the way first, which was probably the biggest blessing in disguise. And I realized that the common sense way is not the best way. It's actually the opposite. I got to be less bulky in my upper body, and I got to be way bulkier in my lower body. Like, yeah, okay, I swing the golf club with my upper body, I throw with my upper body, but I get the power from the lower half, and I train. You still got to be functionally strong up there in the right places, but it's not the common sense curls and benching and whatever. So that's such a huge thing, is you learn through experience. And sometimes as athletes, like, you got to get some of those ways out of your brain just to, like, move forward. You got to explore everything and understand why you're doing the things you're doing. So,
and I wouldn't have been shocked if you would have gotten with a coach earlier and they just said, hey, you're going to get better if you just get stronger. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we see that all the time too. Is sometimes you just need to do some strength training to be able to figure out how to move your body in space and figure out, like, all these certain things that come with learning the skill of training, which is another thing James and I talk about all the time. And sometimes if you jump into it and you don't have any of that experience, you're never able to produce the outputs that us as coaches are asking you to produce, because you don't know how to move your body.
Yep.
You did all that and you figured all that out and you had some success in certain places with that. And then again, by the time you got to somebody, you were ready and willing to learn the next step.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes we see people who never go through that and just show up and then aren't ready and willing because they want to, like you're saying, they want to spend all their time doing bicep curls and back squats, when
exactly
that's not it. We'd rather you screw that up on your own.
Yes.
Previously, before you come to us, and then from there we can explore how to become more athletic, and we can start doing some things where we're looking for outputs and we're creating high levels of force and torque and output. But without that basic strength training structure, you're probably never going to even get to that place.
Exactly.
And I think I just had like the same realization again. So I train a lot of baseball players at our facility. The main sports that I'll focus on is like baseball and football athletes. And we have this special class for baseball players to be able to jump in. And usually I save 1 day a week to work on the skill side of things. But I've never included the throwing part of the game. It's always been a hitting day. And so 2 weeks ago, we threw with the high school group for the first time. And it just like clicked. I'm like, holy cow. I've been doing a disservice to these athletes by not analyzing their throwing movements and helping them with that. And I'm not a pitching coach, and I'm not, going to be their pitching coach, or, a position player. I'm not going to be their skills coach. But 1 day a week, I get to act as that. And I play baseball in college, and I work with a lot of high level throwers, and I'm kicking myself in the butt right now for not at least asking them to throw so I can see what it looks like because of what you just said. Is like, yeah, I can help you get stronger, and I can even help them rotate better and be more mobile. But until I'm now seeing what their throwing mechanics are looking like, I'm kicking myself in the butt saying like, dude, I could have helped these kids a lot more than I have been. And it's cool to hear you say that. Being a high level guy and understanding like, dude, 89 is not slow, right? Like, let's be real. Like, that is still gas. But then for you to have that realization is like, dude, I know there's more there. Let me go seek some advice. And it is cool to hear you kind of talk through that process.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew there was definitely more in the tank. Like I said, like, I would see guys like, whether it was shorter guys or skinnier guys, or whatever, like, they were throwing like 95, 96. And I was like, they're not more athletic than me. So why are they throwing the way they are? And yeah, so that was really like, kind of the inspiration behind like why I wanted to push it further and try a new mentality. Like, you can't have an ego when you're trying to play, do anything at a high level. If you want to play a sport at a high level, you can't have an ego. You have to have the open-mindedness to try something new and see how the end result comes out. But you have to like put your full 110% effort behind that mentality. But yeah, like I easily could have just subscribed to, I'm just like, I guess I just don't have a quick enough arm or whatever. Like, no, it comes down to what you consume and kind of what you practice every single day. I mean, every day matters. Every rep matters too. So,
are there things that you did when you were, if we even want to call it like training for golf, or when golf was your main focus, right? Are there things that you were doing then that you recognized helped you when you were playing baseball, that you also recognized that helped you when you were playing basketball? Like, are there staples in your training that you keep kind of no matter what? And if there are, what do some of those things look like? Exercises or, things such as that?
absolutely. So biggest thing, the biggest like jumps I made from like a performance perspective that stemmed from the weight room in my training program, because I've literally tried every single thing possible. Like, if you name it, I have tried it. I know what is wrong. I know it was right. Like, but I literally have subscribed to every single possible training method or whatever. And when it comes to the weight room, the biggest jumps I made, step one is, you want to be a great rotational athlete, or really just athlete in general, you got to be strong in your lower half. So for me, that was trap bar deadlifts. You can do your squats, your safety bar squats if you want. Just like focusing on my posterior chain, RDLs. RDLs are huge. Getting your hamstring strong is a huge thing. For people don't think about RDLs as like a jumping or explosive movement. Everyone's like, oh, well, if I want to jump higher, I got to do squats. Like, if you diagnose the best jumpers in the world, like I've now been around some of the Venice ball guys out in LA who are just street ballers, like freak athletes. Don't have like the best skill set at times when it compares to the NBA, but they will blow any NBAer out of the water in a dunk competition. They're freaks. And hearing what they have to talk about, like, I never thought of an RDL as a movement that would help me be more explosive down the mound or jumping in basketball or football, whatever it is. And your posterior chain, when you're lifting up, like, you go into extension on the way up, like that is an RDL, and you're flexing your core at the top. Like, so a strong core, strong lower half, posterior chain, that's got to be the core right there. And then you can worry about the upper body after. My upper body maintenance is, it's mostly just to maintain what I'm doing with the speed and lower half. So I equate it to like a car. So my upper body is the brakes of the car, and my legs are the engine. And if my car goes 200 miles per hour, but my brakes can only stop 120, I'm going to get injured. There's just no way around it. I don't care if it's game 1, game 6, whatever. Eventually my brakes cannot stop what my engine is putting out. So my upper body, all I'm trying to achieve is anything I push, I need to pull an equal amount or more. I need to be able to pull as much as I can to stop what I'm pushing out. So I'll do a lot of like dumbbell, like rows and stuff like that. I'll do some barbell, like overhead. I forget what the official terminology is, but for that, that'll be shoulder stuff.
Landmine presses and.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the thing that people probably sleep on the most, and what made the most jump for me, was the functional strength in like the back of your, I don't even want to say like your joints, but like Jaeger bands. You've probably seen every pitcher do it. I used to make fun of kids when I was in middle school, like, oh, what are they doing over there? They're just doing the Jaeger bands. But I started doing it myself, and that's when my like fastball gained 3 miles per hour, 4 miles per hour. Obviously, it was on top of the weightlifting of my legs and stuff like that. But that was like the final ingredient where it was like, okay, I now have a great Jaeger band routine where, like, for whatever reason, it just made, it was like supporting all the muscles around it and making, kind of just giving me the opportunity to move those muscles and body parts fast and like be able to stop them as well. So second, I started doing a consistent Jaeger band program after my workouts. It's like a closer. I started hitting, like I said, hitting the golf ball further, started throwing the baseball 3 miles per hour harder again. And I wasn't getting injured either. So I would say the Jaeger bands, and also med ball tosses are another great thing. Like throwing them into the wall. I can't express how huge of a training program med ball slams, whether it's overhead or twists, like throwing them into the wall, explosive movements, that all matters. So those are the biggest things for me that have made a huge jump. So,
and as far as athletic expression, right? Somebody who's passionate about so many different things. Let's look at it as like a week, right? If from Sunday to Sunday, are you trying to check certain boxes athletically? Like, I'm going to hit a golf ball this many times. I'm going to play basketball this many. I'm going to do this for baseball. Is it over a month? Kind of what does that look like as an individual, another individual who's listening, who's trying to develop more athletic skill, right? Kind of like open that base up a little bit. What is your approach to kind of athletic discovery and athletic curiosity throughout the week or even the month?
Yeah, like something that keeps me stimulated, especially the most, would be tracking your progress. So in the weight room, like one thing that they did at my my training program with Robert Bina here in Philadelphia, he would give us packets of each workout, and you would label what weight you did on each set and be like, set 1 for the week 1. And then it'd be week 2 underneath, week 3, week 4. And it'd have a like almost like an Excel spreadsheet type feel to it. And you'd write in your weight each week, like, hey, set 1, I did, 225 on a squat or whatever. And then set 2, I did 235. Set 3, I did 245. And then the next week I had something to look back on week 2. And when I was writing my program, internally it was like, oh, well, last week I did 235, and like maybe I'll warm up on 235, but I'm going to try on my set 1, start at 240 or 245. And then I would try and just increase the weight by 10 pounds each week or whatever it was, until I felt like at the end of the weeks, I could feel the strength and I could feel the progress. And I also had like a tangible thing to just look at and be like, hey, like, I'm way stronger than I was week 1. Week 4 here, I'm ready for like a new program, and I'm crushing what I did week 1. And so like that kept me stimulated, like, and I get a new packet for the next month, and I could literally see and feel the progress in the weight room And it also challenged you. It was like, yo, like, I want to make last week my bitch. Like, I want to, and I don't know if I can curse on this or whatever, but
Please.
I want to be better than I was last week. So if you write down that number, like, hey, I just increased my first set by 10 pounds this week, or 2 or 3 weeks down the road, I'm 30 pounds heavier on the squats than I was week one. I know that I got stronger. I know that I got better. And then when it comes to the actual physical, like playing the sport, I'm big on not, I think there's like a mindset of, you got to be like always playing, like you got to be obsessed. Like you do have to be obsessed, but I also think you can overdo certain things. So when it comes to golf, like if you hit too many balls on the range, you're going to lose your on the course in-game feel. So if you shoot too many corner jump shots, when you get in the game, you might get locked into just that same motion of like catch and shoot. Like it's not the same feel as a game. So you have to find a good mixture of like, okay, when I go to the driving range, I'm going to work on my 3-wood today. And when I have that feel of like, okay, I'm going to set up left, I'm going to hit a cut right, and I can do that comfortably 10 times in a row. It almost feels like clockwork. Then I'll go to the course and I'll go do it on the course and play right after as an affirmation. Like I can do this in competition now. Or I'll play a pickup game in basketball. Like I'll get my shots up in the morning on my weightlifting, whatever. And then I'll go play pickup. Let's go put it in play. Let's see what happens. Like I just worked on my shot. I got a tighter shot now, better arc on my jumper. I'm taking it to in-game. Yeah, you might not feel as fluent in the game as it did in warm-ups, but that's the whole point. That's the process. And eventually it will. So finding a good balance between taking your process and your practice to a game-like situation, so big, so big.
I was just having this conversation with a baseball player the other day, talking about like, well, how much work is the right amount of work, right? And you know, whether it's like tee work, flips, and, you know, specifically talking about the swing. And I was kind of talking through my process was, if it feels good, I'm probably going to do less. If it feels bad, I'm probably going to do even less. If it's in the middle, that's when I spend time. Until it goes one of those two directions, and then I get out. And if it's one of those days where it's just like a bad day, well, that's okay. It's just a part of the process. It's not an outcome on the field. And if it's going well, great. The process is working. Let's go put it on the field. And I see like hitters falling into that trap of too many swings and like just that, like that, there is too much rotation, right? So like if you're going to be a switch hitter, and I saw this happen with a teammate of mine who was a switch hitter, and he would take way too many swings on both sides of the plate, and he swung himself into a stress fracture by the end of that season, that summer ball season. And it was just like, it was hard to watch because you wanted, like, he's like, I'm going to work and work and work and work, and I'm going to outwork everybody. Yeah, but there is too much. You just, you know, unfortunately you can't play anymore because you swung so much, you have a stress fracture in your lower back. How do you kind of compartmentalize that, especially, and I kind of want to know, like, you had to mimic somebody else's basketball movements to be able to make this movie work. So like, how did that process go? Was that watching film and then practicing and filming you to make sure those movements lined up? And was that a frustrating because it might not have been your game, how you're supposed to be mimicking, you know, another athlete's game?
Yeah. So fortunately I had the hard part down. For me, like the hardest part was looking like the guy. So when I first Google searched Juancho Hernan Gomez, I knew Juancho before, but like I didn't know exactly how I was going to transform into this guy. I had long shaggy hair like I still do now, and I had to get a buzz cut. So I didn't see it on surface. So 50% of it, the hair and makeup team did it for me. So I knew I had the hard part down for me. But when it came to the athletic movements, that came a little more naturally because I grew up on YouTube videos watching Tiger Woods. I grew up on YouTube videos watching Randy Johnson throw a baseball, or Cole Hamels as a Philly sports fan. So like I grew up in this digital age kind of watching the greats and mimicking the greats, which is a tool that the guys that started this game, like if you started this game, or whether it's basketball or golf or whatever, they didn't used to have the resources that we have. So they were always just, everything was based off feel for them. They had no idea how they looked unless they looked in the mirror. So for me, like, I was able to kind of translate my movements to Juancho. Every time I was on set, I'd watch his jump shot. And I saw that he was a little bit higher than I was when I was taught to shoot. I was more taught like a Steph Curry, where you shoot from like the shoulder and you kind of push out. You don't want to block your face. But Juancho's more like a Kobe. Juancho's more centered. He's in front of his face. He's up high and he shoots. And I just tried to pick up on little things like how he ran, because running, something as simple as running, like people, for whatever reason, don't run the same. Like they do different stuff with their arms. They, some people run with a little bit of pep in their step, a little bounce through their calves. Other people are just like real unathletic with it, or whatever. So, yeah, like being able to translate, like I said, that digital age mindset of watching YouTube videos of the old greats helped me kind of translate into the real Juancho Hernan Gomez. Hey, like he shoots like that, I'm going to try and shoot like that. He runs like that, I'm going to try and run like that. And like, it was cool. Like, and we were also in the process creating a fictional character in itself, Bo Cruz. Like, so we were able to give Bo Cruz a characterization, like we're creating who he was. And so that was like a cool little, like you're almost creating a story in itself and a character in itself. So it was cool. It was just cool to be a part of that.
That reminds me of like being a kid in the batting cage. Like, oh, hey, swing like Griffey here. Oh, hey, swing like Barry Bonds. You know, I think that's a drill I'm going to try next Wednesday. Is I'm going to just like ask my younger hitters, like, all right, here's 5 different pro level hitters, and we're going to mimic their swings today. That doesn't mean you have to swing like them always, but like, let's just play around with it. And I think that's a good opportunity and a good way to kind of like learn how to control your body. And also, like, if you screw up, so what? It's not your swing. So it kind of takes out, like, you know, it's definitely the process, not worried about the outcome, because we're just having fun. We're going to be Aaron Judge, or, you know, we're going to be, you know, Juan, the Guardians leadoff hitter. Like, he has a very unique swing. I think that's just like a fun part of the sport. And I could definitely see how it would play into being a basketball player too.
Yeah. And like the greatest advice I will give too is like, I don't try and be somebody else. I'll never try and be like, one of the biggest pitfalls I had during my baseball career was I used to literally try and be Noah Syndergaard, or I used to try and be Jacob deGrom. Whoever was the hot pitcher at that time, it was like, oh, well, he's doing it the best right now. I got to be him. And the thing is, like, when you try and do that, it's okay for maybe a day or two or whatever, but you'll never actually be that person and look like that person. Like, you might feel like you are. Like, feel is not real is one of the best sayings I've ever heard. And as hard as you try, like, to make a feel an actuality, you'll never truly achieve it. And it's probably not in your best interest anyway to achieve it. You're always going to be your own individual self. But there are things, like fundamental things that the greats do that you should be incorporating. So in golf, it would be like an impact position, like never flip your hands at impact. No one on the PGA Tour ever flips their hands at impact. And for me, that changed my life. I was just watching every great player come through the zone the same way. But also, like, finding an athlete, though, like you said, like a Barry Bonds, that you can mimic, puts you in the right frame of mind. It's like, okay, like, my identity is like, yeah, okay, I'm myself. But for me, like, if I'm going out to the golf course, Tiger Woods, all those videos of watching Tiger, his swing almost is like ingrained in my mind, and it helps me find my tempo. Like, okay, like, I know Tiger's tempo because I've watched it on YouTube for so long, and I've played so many great rounds of golf having that tempo in mind. So, like, yeah, I'm not trying to be Tiger. Like, I'm not trying to do everything the same as him, but there's pieces of his game that, yeah, I am like mimicking Tiger. And same thing with any other sport. Find someone that matches up well and clicks to you, and has a similar, whether it's a similar arm action, or like if you're a low 3/4 pitcher, Randy Johnson might be the perfect guy to watch. If you're a like one inning, throw it as hard as I can guy, and you just want to be a velocity guy, Aroldis Chapman might be a really good guy to try and mimic and understand why his body moves the way it does. So like I said, don't get caught up too much in the feels, but at the same time, find the fundamentals that make them great and try and replicate those fundamentals.
Yeah, and feel versus real is something that I'll talk about with any quarterback that I get to work with. And a lot of times, like, you know, we'll see quarterbacks, younger kids, kind of pushy, like throwing the ball from like right about their shoulder. And like I tell them, like, I want you to feel like you're on the other side of your helmet throwing the ball. You're not going to be there. You're going to end up somewhere in between where you're at and where I'm telling you to be. So like coaching through that feel versus real is a huge point. I love that saying. I'm glad you brought that up.
100%. So, and like I said, I got caught too much up in trying to be some of these people. Like Noah Syndergaard, I tried to replicate every piece of his delivery at one point, because he was like a big guy. He was like 6'6". I was like, oh, he seems like a good guy to copy. He throws 98. But the other thing that the TV camera does is it slows down what's actually happening. So what you see on TV, it looks slow and it looks effortless. But if you were there in person and saw it, they are putting everything they have into that pitch. And they are so explosive. Like when I watched Chris Sale at spring training pitch in person, it was so different than watching him on TV. And same with Noah Syndergaard. I saw Noah Syndergaard pitch in person. He looked so slow and effortless, methodical, but in reality, he was so explosive and like, I just realized that the TV camera like slows everything down. So those explosive movements on the TV look so professional. But if you did what you thought on TV in the slow manner that you thought was happening, it would look so terrible on a screen. You would look so slow, unathletic. So the reality is like these guys are moving so fast and at a high level. So don't get too caught up in like the speed of the camera. Like be as explosive as you can. Like once I realized, okay, there's parts of Noah's back leg that I like, how he uses his back leg. I like that, but I don't like how slow his initial delivery was, because it screwed me up mentally. Like I had to be just quick all through my delivery. I had to be a fast delivery. Almost like a Garrett Cole. He's really quick with his up on his leg, and then he's really good on his back leg, and then explosive down the mound. And Garrett Cole sits 100 miles per hour, and he's way faster through the motion than Noah Syndergaard is. But Noah Syndergaard's great. I'm not saying one way is wrong or the other. It's just you got to find, like I'm a quick twitch athlete. I'm not a slow methodical. Anytime, if it's golf, basketball, baseball, whatever, slow methodical does not work for me. It makes me think too much about the motion of what I'm trying to do. So quick and efficient, you can't think. You got to be quick and react. And that's how sports should be. You can't be thinking about the technique when you're performing. You got to be quick and efficient. So that's just what clicked with me. And like I said, it'll be different for everybody, but find someone that you match up with great, and then use it as a mental cue.
Hideo Nomo, you guys remember that name, the pitcher for the Dodgers? I believe I had to just Google it real quick.
Oh, yeah.
He was the guy when I was growing up and pitching, I mean, very, very low level, right? Pitch. I was like, oh, I want to do what he does, right? And he had that like super like extended like overhead stretch, and then he would like tuck up and then push real hard from the back. And I remember being outside, running outside after watching Dodgers games for hours, right? Trying to pitch like that. And I didn't pitch any better because I was trying to be Hideo Nomo, but what I think it did was drive some intent that I was actually trying to throw the ball hard because I was trying to do my best Nomo impression, right? I think it's the same reason why people shoot and they say Kobe, right? Or they say whatever, you know, I'm always like Iverson,
CT.
right? CT. Nobody's saying that. But like, you know, if it's driving an athlete's intent to try to do that, I think that's excellent. But then you eventually kind of figure out your own thing, right, that you can take from that person. From Nomo, I just realized like, oh, maybe if I rotate harder, because this dude he'd reach all the way like around to his other side before he would throw. So what I took from him is, oh, maybe if I rotate a little bit when I throw, I could produce a little more force.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And things like that. And dude, I loved how you said two things that really stuck out to me. One was you can't practice all the time. You got to play at some point.
Yep.
And I think that's really interesting too, because I do think a lot of people practice, and they get in the game and it's like, and you can't hit the big shot, or you can't hit the free throw in front of people, or you can't catch the football in traffic. And practice is great, but you got to play.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody say it how you said it. And so I really appreciate you saying it like that. But also the other point was when you mentioned kind of just like growing up in this digital era where I was always watching these people, I was always doing this, right? Maybe that's something that other athletes can take from this is, all right, let me find my favorite athlete or an athlete who's having some success and try to do what they do a little bit and work it into my training. And like James says, it's not a big deal because it's not you who's messing up. It's you kind of emulating this individual. But then I also think that challenges your body, the awareness proprioceptively. I think it challenges you because now I'm trying to do different things that I'm weak at and that I'm uncomfortable at that will hopefully build up these weaknesses to be strengths eventually. So I think there's a lot of like really awesome things that you had mentioned that people can take from. So I appreciate all that kind of stuff. I do want to start to kind of wrap it up, Andrew, and I'm interested because I want to know golf, baseball, basketball, acting, all this kind of stuff, investing. Like, what is next? Like, what could possibly be the next big thing for Andrew Carber? Because it seems like you're at a point where you've done it all, but I know you're curious, and I know you're, for a lack of better metaphor, like thirsty, you know what I mean, for experience, and you got to do things that tons and tons of people would love to do and haven't gotten to do. What's the next thing for you? What's the next pursuit?
Yeah, it's a tough question because it's hard to plan for the future, because if I would have I did write down my goals for 2021 last year, and I looked back at them here in 2022 when we got into the new year, and not one of those goals read beyond a movie set with Adam Sandler and like go out of the country for the first time and whatever. Like it was so like life. If there's anything I learned from all the experiences, like you can't really plan what's going to happen in the future. All you can do is really just keep pushing forward, and you got to choose a path. So my greatest advice to kids that are looking for, if they're chasing their dreams or whatever, you can't expect to just get your dream automatically or whatever. Like you have to choose a path. For me, what changed my life was going from, first stepping out of college. That was the ground zero. It was like me choosing a different path, not going to the 9-to-5 lifestyle, choosing to go back and play sports. Maybe baseball didn't lead me to the Adam Sandler set directly, but indirectly, me going to play baseball led me to go play basketball, which was the next pillar. I chose, hey, basketball is my next path that I'm going to pursue. And I thought basketball was going to end up in playing professionally overseas, much like my baseball dream. I envisioned me playing up in Fenway. Did either of those things happen? No, it actually wound up in a crazy way, ending up to be one of the best things that ever happened in my life. Was I ended up on a movie set with Adam Sandler and Netflix, like I said, and that happened from me choosing a path. I chose, hey, I'm now going to go to basketball. And yeah, it didn't end up the way I thought it was going to happen. It actually ended up probably better, in my opinion. And now I got to be on another movie set with CT. We're going to have fantasy football come out in November, which will be awesome. And I'm actually doing a Google Pixel commercial here in New York City. It's an NBA commercial coming up in a couple weeks. So now I'm in the entertainment space. And for me next, I think it's going to have something to do with entertainment. And what exactly that's going to look like is, I think, going to be very much predicated on the path I choose moving forward. So if I choose to continue down this entertainment, whether it's movies, commercials, whatever, I really do believe that I can't plan for what the final product's going to be. It's just going to happen. And it's going to be just as amazing as all the rest of the end results have happened. And for me, like, I think the next thing, I want to become a great investor. I want to teach others how to invest as well, and where to put their money and grow financially free on their own. They don't have to look at MSNBC or CNN. I want people to be able to logically think for themselves. So that's something I'm very passionate about, is eventually creating some sort of, well, I don't know if it's going to be a course or just working with people to help fix the education system that I think is broken at the moment. But I think the next step of the journey is going to be helping others along the way as I pursue more of my dreams in entertainment. Who knows? I don't know. It could be sports related or not, but I think the sky's the limit. I really do think we're just getting started. I feel like I'm just taking off the runway now, and I think it's time to take flight. And it's those answers are going to be answered pretty soon here. So,
yeah, that's sick, man. I can't wait to catch up on part 2.
Yes,
and
sir.
follow up with all the goals you've set and the goals you've accomplished. I'm sure at the beginning of the year you didn't write down beyond episode 52 of Cutoffs and Coffee with James and CT, but we were able to make that happen. And I know for us, it's a dream come true. So I hope it's been a good time for you personally, being on here and being able to share your story.
I have been thinking about this since I left fantasy football. I was like, yo, I gotta follow up with CT on this podcast because
gotta figure this thing out. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, after we had that first conversation, I text James, I'm like, bro, this dude, he's coming on. So I'm glad we caught back up and talked about it. But dude, people want to support you. People want to follow your journey. People want to find you. Where can they do that on social media?
Yes. So we touched on it earlier. As ridiculous as it sounds, on Instagram, I am Daddy Carbs.
EADY.
Yes.
Daddy Carbs.
Yes. You can find me on there. I'll be posting some stuff. I try not to get too involved and sucked into the social stuff. I just try and be on there here and now and every now and again. But Twitter, same thing, Daddy Carbs. TikTok, I changed to my name, Andrew Carber. You'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff on Hustle on there, and you'll see a lot of things like day to day. I'll have some fantasy football stuff coming up there soon as well. So if you want to see like a kind of a funnier behind the scenes look, you can catch me on TikTok, Andrew Carber. But yeah, like I said, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on here. And I've been listening to your podcast before, and I knew this was something I really wanted to do when I started listening. From the second I heard some of the guests you guys had on speaking about, I had some knee tendonitis from some of my just not warming up properly and playing too much pickup basketball and weightlifting at the same time. And you had on one of your podcasts the jumping guy and the knee guy, and that was something that like instantly just hit home. It was like, what can I do to get rid of some knee pain? And just like you guys, like I said, you guys are providing value, and so to be able to get on here was pretty awesome. I hope I can do the same. So
yeah, man, we so much appreciate that. We James, when we were talking about it originally, I had sent him the Tim Riley episode, the Jake Turer episode, some of these guys, the Jump Science, just to make sure that he was doing the right stuff so he could feel good as he continues to pursue all this stuff. And so it's awesome that you put some of that into play, and hopefully that's been helpful. But thanks so much, man, for sharing your journey. This has been awesome. Just like I felt like I was outside there on the patio with you, just like the shit and having a good time and drinking some coffee, man. So
hey,
thank you. Yeah, we may have to. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on, man. Everybody give him a follow. He has some awesome stuff. If you want a little bit of context of what we're talking about, he has a lot of pictures on Instagram of him tattooed and head shaved and with all of these stars to talk about, which is really cool to see. I actually had an athlete I was working with last night who said, man, have you seen the movie Hustle? I just finished that yesterday. And I said, bro, Wait till the next podcast comes out, because I said I got the guy from there on. So he'll be looking forward to hearing that. But everybody, thank you so much for listening, man. This has been episode 52 of Cutoffs and Coffee. We ask you 3 things at the end of every episode to please do as you go on throughout your life. Number 1, it is to continue to practice gratitude. Number 2, tell the people that you love them. And number 3, Andrew mentioned it. He said he gets stimulated in the weight room. We do it in the weight room. We stimulate our minds and stimulate our bodies. We want to ask you to live this life stimulated. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one.